Ladies and gentlemen, I am loving life today. I'm loving life. I was tent pegging my shorts when I read the news this morning. EU Commissioner says Gibraltar is Spanish. Things are better after Brexit, says Margaritis Shinas, as EU and Britain try to reach Brexit deal for the Rock. Get in! Get in. Just like old times, we can kick off with the Spanish again. I'm still young enough to re-enlist. I can go over there, roll across the decks of some ramshackle Spanish Navy vessel and bayonet a few Spanish sailors. I cannot wait for it to kick off. Oop, I apologise for being remiss. I forgot to include an infantile crass insult for the gentleman involved. And I'll lead with a statement of intent as well. There's Margaritas with a woman's name, and I've got a message for the little fat, dumpy, jumped up greaseball kebab merchant. If you want it, try and take it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, glorious day, glorious day. All we need now is the frogs to invade Dover and my life is complete. I was a staunch colonist long before it was fashionable, and I've long been of the opinion that basically the entire world would be a better place if in about 1812, the British, the Americans, the Portuguese, or everyone had allied up that we got on with and just said, you know what, let's take the whole world. Alas, it didn't come to be. But thanks to the sabre rattling of these jumped up civil servants, unelected jumped up civil servants, maybe it's going to boot off again. And I will point out, this isn't contradicting what I said the other day, which is that, Britain definitely isn't the second most powerful country in the world. But just like I always tell the Scots when they say, the English are arrogant. No, they aren't. They aren't. When the World Cup starts, no Englishman goes, yeah, England's definitely going to win the World Cup, they're brilliant. No, they're not arrogant. Simply knowing that you're not quite as dog shit as Scotland does not make you arrogant. We know England aren't very good at football. We just know they are better than Scotland. That's it. And the UK is no longer a major power. However, we could most assuredly mallet the Spanish in a pitched battle. I could probably do a couple of vessels by myself. I wouldn't even need to use a firearm against a dozen Spanish Marines. I would simply whip out my ball sack, give it a little twist, and then bludgeon them around the heads, wielding my mighty fleshy mace as the cowering Spaniards fled before me. But that's enough talk about my scrotum. Let's discuss the news for the day. EU Commissioner says Gibraltar is Spanish. Things are better after Brexit. An EU Commissioner has sparked anger by quipping that Gibraltar is Spanish, whilst dismissing the chances of a Brexit deal for the Rock before a June deadline. Gibraltar Español, said Margarita Shinas, when asked about the sensitive negotiations in Seville, which have dragged on for years over 18 rounds and counting. The slogan, which means Gibraltar is Spanish and dates back to the Franco era, is chanted by those who claim the Rock is a colony and rightfully belongs to Spain. Oh yeah, Franco. He was a nice fella, wasn't he? Yeah, Franco. Good bloke. Yeah. This is what I love about the Europeans. I love this about them. In the last century alone, that continent has spawned more dictators and fascists than the UK managed in 2 millennia. England especially is a better country than Spain in every demonstrable way. It's definitely, to use an argument that the lefties should love, it's demonstrably less prejudiced and racist and homophobic than Spain as well. Every black person that's ever been to Spain knows this. They still do monkey taunts at football matches. Something that just doesn't happen in England. The Spanish have been on the wrong side of every argument for centuries, and their colonies, when compared to ours, are an absolute joke. We actually built stuff. The Spanish just pillaged and shagged everything senseless and ran amok. Yes, the UK is like a handicapped child, but Spain is the handicapped child's 3-legged chihuahua. Right? They are a pointless country, a nation of rabbit eaters that couldn't administer a piss-up in a brewery. So I'll not take lectures from them, and I certainly won't take lectures from some pot-bellied little Greek who had a career as a civil servant, which means a rat in a suit. Basically, tell us more, rat in a suit. Gibraltar was ceded to Britain in 1713 under the Treaty of Utrecht, which ended the Spanish Wars of Succession. In a 2002 referendum, 98.97% of Gibraltarians voted down a proposal to share sovereignty with Spain, which continues to claim the territory. I'll read that again just to drive the point home. 98.97% of Gibraltarians voted down a proposal to share sovereignty with Spain, which continues to claim the territory. So 99% of the country go, you're all right, mate. Inglaterra does no español, mother-o, efugero. And what do? Now they go, who cares? It's ours anyway. It isn't. You have got the neck of 1,000 giraffes. This is what I'm talking about. Sheep do not negotiate with lions. They couldn't take it by force of arms thanks to these fellas. The fellas who won this battle honour. And you know what they got it for? Absolutely malleting the Spaniards that tried to take it. They can't take it by force of arms, so they just wait a few centuries and go, it's ours really. It isn't. And if you want it, go and take it. See what the 99% of people there think of it when they're throwing bricks at the soldiers so frequently they make the locals in South Armagh look positively civilised. You oily little greaseball. I can more comfortably say Gibraltar Español after Brexit, said Mr. Sheenass, the pot-bellied commissioner with a woman's name. And it's not just the only area where things are better after Brexit. UK and EU negotiators are striving to secure a deal creating a post-Brexit common travel area between Spain and Gibraltar before June's European Parliament elections. The elections precede a change of leadership in the EU institution that would delay further talks. Failure to get a UK-EU deal done before the vote could leave Gibraltar facing no deal, full border controls on movements to and from Spain. Mr. Sheenass, who is a cringing, snivelling, fat coward and a Greek, also speaks fluent Spanish. I don't believe there will be a result before the European elections, and I think some involved in the negotiation wanted to project a certain optimism that is not reflected in reality. He said in comments that were branded very unfortunate and incomprehensible by a furious Madrid. Oh, what? Oh, what? It ruined everything. It has killed my galloping libido. What do you mean Madrid are furious? Is it because they know that a former power the UK might indeed be, but it's still got 40 or 50 million pissed off working class inhabitants that would absolutely love throwing a couple of thousand Spanish soldiers out to Gibraltar? Oh, surely not. The European Commission is handling negotiations with the UK on Spain's behalf, but Madrid will have the final say on whether to accept a deal brokered by Brussels. The fat, sweaty Greek is not in charge of negotiations over Gibraltar, which are being handled by Maros Sefcovic, the Slovak commissioner who agreed the Brexit deal for Northern Ireland. Negotiations have been complicated by sensitive sovereignty issues, including a Madrid power grab for joint management of Gibraltar's airport, which includes an RAF base. Mr. Sheenass doubted whether British negotiators would ultimately accept officers from Frontex policing the airport. Our British friends believe Frontex is very European, Mr. Sheenass told the Spanish reporters over breakfast on Thursday morning. Dave Jones, a former cabinet minister, said Sheenass has let the cat out of the bag. The EU clearly intends the negotiations to result in Spanish sovereignty over the rock. He underestimates the resolve of both the United Kingdom and the people of Gibraltar. As Chief Minister Fabian Picardo has made clear, Gibraltar is British, and that is the way it will stay. Well, and there you have it, a bit of an anticlimax. Hats off to David Jones for actually having a spine and saying it as it is, and not folding like a rich tea finger the second anybody opened their mouths about it. What is obvious is that Brexit has been designed to fail, because you might remember a very fiery speech by Theresa May. And it was a fascinating moment because I heard the speech at the time and it was fantastic. She was almost channeling Thatcher. She was aggressive, she was direct. And then obviously the weasels in Westminster or the globalist psychopaths, whoever it was, got to her and said, whoa. You can't look after the British people. You've got to do as you're told, Theresa. And then she turned into a pathetic mewling loser who would happily grab her ankles and let Klaus Schwab donkey one into her. But just to read you an excerpt, this is from Theresa May's speech on Brexit in January 2017. We will take back control of our laws and bring an end to the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice in Britain. Our laws will be made in Westminster, Edinburgh, Cardiff and Belfast, and they will be interpreted by judges not in Luxembourg, but in courts across this country. Because we will not have truly left the European Union if we are not in control of our own laws. European leaders have said many times that membership means accepting the four freedoms of goods, capital, services and people, but it would mean accepting a role for the European Court of Justice that would see it still having direct legal authority in our country. It would, to all intents and purposes, mean not leaving the EU at all. That is why we made it clear that a vote to leave the EU would be a vote to leave the single market. We do not seek membership of the single market and seek a bold, ambitious free trade agreement. I want us to have reached an agreement about our future by the time the 2-year Article 50 process has concluded. And I must be clear, Britain wants to remain a good friend and neighbour to Europe, but I know there are some voices calling for a punitive deal that punishes Britain and discourages other countries from taking the same path. That would be an act of calamitous self-harm for the countries of Europe, and it would not be the act of a friend. I am equally clear that no deal for Britain is better than a bad deal for Britain, because we would still be able to trade with Europe, we would be free to strike deals across the world, we would have the freedom to set competitive tax rates and embrace the policies that would attract the world's best companies, and for the EU it would mean new barriers to trade with one of the biggest economies in the world. So if it isn't clear, the EU is an enemy of the British people. The EU are a hyper-controlling, authoritarian, neoliberal project of Eastern Bloc commies, tin pot dictators and tyrants, like Ursula von Scheisserporn and Guy Verhofstadt are not fit to lick my boots. And if you think being part of the EU is a good idea, you've got a head full of horse shit. The UK could be doing 10 times better than it is, and they are purposely torpedoing our economy and our immigration and everything else because they want you to go back into the European Union. It is all by design. And Theresa May let the cat out the bag when she told it how it was in January of 2017. If they were actually trying, Brexit would have been a massive success because one small, nimble country can easily outmaneuver a massive European Union with a bloated parliament and representatives from 30 countries. It's obvious, it's common sense. They have purposely ballsed up Brexit because they want us to rejoin the European Union. And if it was true that we were the sick man of Europe, why do they want us back in the European Union? Anyway, that's my rant over. I'm disappointed we're not going to war, but you can't have everything. What I wouldn't give to hear the drums of war sounding once again. But that's just my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. If you think Gibraltar, we should just give it to Spain. Why not? Spain is such a nice country, and they've been so much better led than us. And the Europeans, they're much better people than the English. You know, the people that spawned Franco, Tito, Mussolini, Adolf, Stalin, Vidkun Quisling, and Zogu and Metaxas and everybody else. I could reel them off all day long. I'll also add that I reckon it's going to kick off on the continent long before it kicks off in the UK. Someone's going to elect a lunatic into power on the continent. Probably the Italians, or the Frogs, or the Germans, or the Dutch, somebody. But it ain't going to be the English. But we'll see if I'm wrong. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think we should give up Gibraltar in the sake of good manners. Yeah. And I'll see you all very soon. Have a great weekend. Unfortunately, I'll miss the live stream tomorrow because I'm off visiting my mother-in-law again in LA. So, yeah, I'll be back on Monday. All right? Have a good weekend. Have a drink. Enjoy yourselves. And I'll see you all very soon. Thanks for tuning in. Toodle pip. Cheers.